guys, Kalen Anglos here. Today I want to talk a little physiology. Let's get into muscle fiber types and what type of contractions that they occur. All right, so today I want to talk about the different muscle fiber types that are found in human muscles and different characteristics that we see with them, what makes them fast, what makes them slow, are they aerobic, are they anaerobic, what hormones play a role. Let's talk about it all. Lots of content coming at you in a quick little span. So, muscle fiber types in humans we know is a range from slow twitch to fast twitch. So we have slow on one side, fastest on the other side. Near the slow end is our type 1 fibers, our slow oxidative fibers. And that's what they're called sometimes, slow oxidative or SO. Okay, these are oxidative muscles that particularly use the aerobic energy system to fuel, and these are used during exercises that are endurance exercises, longer than 2 minutes, or low intensity exercises when we're going to use our type 1 muscle fibers. Now, because they're endurance exercises, endurance muscles, and because they can go on for a long period of time, their ability to generate force is generally low. So low force generation. But because they don't generate as much force and they can be sustained for longer, that means that they are what's called fatigue resistance. So they fatigue less than fast twitch muscles. So fatigue less. So they're slow oxidative, they're using the aerobic energy system, and that they are endurance exercise or endurance muscles. The type of fuel that we typically see used in slow type 1 muscle fibers is fats. Okay, so typically fats is stored in the form of triglycerides are what's used during the endurance low intensity type 1 muscle fiber contractions. And during aerobic respiration, when we're using type 1 slow muscle fibers, the enzyme that's typically used is what's called hormone sensitive lipase. And this is the enzyme that breaks down fats to be used as fuel, or the main enzyme that breaks down fats. So this is really a key enzyme for type 1 muscle fibers. So type 1 are the slow. The next fastest that we kind of have is what's called type 2A muscle fibers. These are sometimes called fast oxidative glycolytic, known as fast oxidative glycolytic. This means that they have some oxidative capacities of like a type 1 fiber. Oxidative uses oxygen. And they also have some glycolytic properties as well, which we'll see more in the type 2X fibers, which we'll talk about here in a sec. So fast oxidative glycolytic are the type 2A fibers. The main fuel source for the type 2A fibers is glycogen. And glycogen is just the stored carbohydrates, the stored glucose that you have in your muscles as well as your liver, which is going to fuel these more high-intensity exercises that the type 2A fibers perform. Type 2A fibers are fast, they contract quickly, and they can generate more force than type 1 fibers. So they have a high to moderate level force. I'll just put an equal sign there for high to moderate levels of force that they can generate in a generally quick amount of time. The glycogen gets broken down quicker, we can get fuel quicker, and that way we can contract our muscles quicker during type 2A fibers. Now, because they contract quickly or relatively quickly, this means that they have moderate fatigue resistance. So this means that they fatigue quicker than the type 1 fibers, but not quite as quickly as the 2X fibers, which we'll get to in a sec. And the main enzyme that gets played a role in the type 2A fibers is what's called phosphofructokinase. There's actually a lot of enzymes that play a role in all of these, but also in the type 2 fibers. But the PFK, phosphofructokinase, is the main glycolytic enzyme that breaks down glucose. So for that reason, it's one of the most important. Finally, the fastest of muscle fibers that you have, the quick contracting, high force generating, are the type 2X fibers. These are called fast glycolytic. FG for fast glycolytic, meaning that they don't have a lot of those oxidative enzymes. They don't have a lot of oxidative characteristics that allow them to be more aerobic, meaning that these are predominantly anaerobic muscle fibers. Type 2X, anaerobic. Again, they high generate amount of force, but they do fatigue a little bit quicker. So when it comes to force, we have a high amount of force, the highest amount of force, but they also are very low fatigue resistance, meaning that they fatigue faster. The main fuel source for the type 2X fibers is glycogen as well, but also creatine. Okay, so glycogen and creatine, or creatine phosphate, are what really generates the power for the type 2X fibers. That's the main fuel. And the main enzyme that gets used during the type 2X fibers is creatine kinase. That's what breaks down the creatine. So when we look at different muscle fiber types, we have type 1 are slow, oxidative. They are fatigue resistant. They can go for longer, but they generate low amounts of force. On the other end, we have our type 2X fibers, fast glycolytic. They generate a lot of force, but they fatigue rather quickly. So when we look at our muscle fiber types in our body, in our human body, it's really a spectrum from slow to fast. So it's not like we have just type 1, just type 2A, just type 2X. You have a spectrum of them all throughout your body in all your muscles. What really determines what your muscle fiber type characteristics are, or what your distribution is your genetics. Is mostly genetic, as well as your training, what type of training you're doing. If you train more explosively, more fast twitch, that means that you're going to use more of the type 2X fibers. If you train more endurance or more slow twitch, that means you're going to use a little bit more of the type 1 fibers. So depending on how you train and depending on your genetics is really going to determine not only what muscle fiber types you have, but also how well they perform. Okay, so these are muscle fiber types. There's lots of stuff we can get into, but that's what we're going to start with. And if there's any questions, send them along and I'll be happy to answer them for you guys. Thanks, I'm Kalen Anglos.